My fiancée gave my McLaren to her new boy toy. She even posted a video of it on TikTok with the caption, "Happy 28th birthday to my favorite person." In the video, my white McLaren 720S was the centerpiece of some lavish outdoor party, a giant red bow stuck to the hood. My fiancée, Ava Sutton, dressed in a designer evening gown, handed the keys to a handsome, slightly bashful-looking guy. He took the keys and pulled her into a dramatic embrace. The crowd around them erupted in deafening cheers. The comment section was a flood of envy and congratulations. "OMG, this is what true love looks like. Get it, girl. This dude must have saved a galaxy in a past life. So lucky. Ava and her man are total goals. Ship it." I'm literally crying. I couldn't even dream of a birthday present like this. A 720S. The top comment was from Ava herself. "He deserves the best of everything in the world." I stared at my phone, my face blank as the video rocketed to the top of the local Austin social media charts. My best friend and business partner, Jake Miller, looked like he was about to smash his own phone. "Cole, are you going to sit there? What does she think you are? An ATM? Her personal piggy bank? No, screw that. She's publicly humiliating you, broadcasting for the whole world to see." I glanced up, my voice calm as if I were discussing the weather. "Easy, Jake. Give her enough rope to hang herself." Methodically, I gathered the digital copies of my purchase contract, the wire transfer confirmation for the full payment, the bill of sale, and the vehicle registration. I took a single clear screenshot of all of them. Then I dialed 911. When the operator answered, my voice was steady and clear. "Hello, I'd like to report a stolen vehicle. It's a McLaren 720S, license plate Texas K8L888. I know who the suspect is. Her name is Ava Sutton." Jake stared dumbfounded as I hung up. "Dude, are you for real? You actually called the cops?" I took a sip of the ice water on my desk, the chill spreading through my chest. What was I supposed to do? Send her a thank you card? But it's Ava, your fiancée. You guys are supposed to get engaged next month. If you do this, you'll destroy her reputation and the Sutton family's. You earn your own reputation. It isn't a gift from someone else. When she decided to drag my name through the mud in front of the entire internet, she should have thought about the consequences, I said flatly. And as of right now, she's no longer my fiancée. Jake was stunned for a moment, then slapped his thigh, his face a mixture of relief and worry. "Damn, that's a boss move. I never liked that woman. Always acting so high and mighty, like Nexus AI only exists because her dad threw me that seed money back in the day. But the Suttons have a lot of pull in Austin. Her old man, Robert, is famous for protecting his own. Aren't you worried he'll come after you?" I let out a cold laugh. Robert Sutton's protection? Wasn't I already all too familiar with it? Ava and I were classmates in college. She claimed it was love at first sight and pursued me relentlessly. Back then, I was completely focused on my startup and wasn't interested. After graduation, my project, the Nexus Core AI interaction system, was starting to take shape, but I desperately needed funding. When Ava found out, she went begging to her father. Robert, a shrewd businessman, saw the potential in my project. He invested $500,000 in seed money, but with one condition: I had to marry his daughter. For my company, for the guys who were pulling all-nighters with me, fueled by ramen and cheap coffee, I agreed. In the years since, Nexus AI had grown exponentially, its valuation skyrocketing from a few million to $3 billion. I went from a broke college kid to Cole Hayes, the tech wonder. A rising tide lifts all ships. The Sutton family's status rose with mine, and Robert never missed an opportunity to boast about his keen eye for talent. And Ava, she transformed from an enthusiastic, seemingly sweet girl into the self-proclaimed queen of the castle. She took my success for granted, meddled in company affairs, and even tried to influence hiring decisions. I tolerated her behavior out of a lingering sense of gratitude for that initial investment. But tolerance has its limits. I bought her millions of dollars worth of bags, jewelry, and luxury cars without blinking an eye. But this McLaren she gave away today? This was the gift I bought for myself for my 29th birthday with my own money after the company finally turned a major corner. The car was registered in my name. I paid for every cent of it myself. What right did she have to take my property and use it to impress another man? And to do it so publicly, as if to make sure the entire world knew Cole Hayes was a spineless chump? Since she refused to give me any respect, why should I worry about her reputation? The police were fast. When Jake and I arrived at the outdoor party, it was in full swing. The boy toy, a guy named Leo Vance, was in the driver's seat, stroking the steering wheel with a blissful look on his face. Ava leaned against the passenger door, staring at him with adoring eyes. A crowd of their friends surrounded the car, oh-ohing and awing. 2 police officers walked through the crowd and straight to the car, their expressions serious. "Who is the owner of this vehicle?" Leo and Ava both froze. Leo instinctively held up the keys, a hint of a smirk on his face. "That's me, officer. Is there a problem?" The officer glanced at him, then at Ava. "This is your car?" Ava stepped forward, linking her arm through Leo's, her chin held high with an air of offended arrogance. "Of course, it's his. It was a birthday gift for me. Officers, you must have made some kind of mistake." The crowd started to murmur in agreement. "Yeah, we all saw her. Give it to him. Cops have nothing better to do than harass people for giving gifts." The officers ignored the noise, held up a body camera, and spoke in an official tone. "We received a call reporting that this McLaren 720S, license plate Texas K8L888, has been stolen. We need to verify the owner's information. Please provide your license and registration." "Stolen?" Ava's face changed instantly, her voice cracking. "That's impossible, this car." She trailed off as she saw me walking through the crowd. My gaze went past her, landing on Leo. The smug look on his face froze, replaced by a flash of panic when he saw the police officers with me. "Cole." Ava's face went pale. "What is the meaning of this? You called the police?" I ignored her and walked directly to the officers, showing them my driver's license and the files on my phone. "Officers, I'm the one who called. My name is Cole Hayes. The car is registered to me. Here are the purchase contract and proof of payment. The registration should be in the glove compartment." One of the officers took my ID, verified the information, and then turned to Leo. "Sir, please step out of the vehicle. We need you to come with us to answer some questions." Leo's face turned beet red. He gripped the steering wheel, looking helplessly at Ava. Ava completely lost her composure. She rushed over to me, her voice a low, furious hiss. "Cole, are you insane? Do you have any idea what you're doing? You're humiliating me. You're humiliating Leo. Your humiliation, Leo's." I looked at her, and for the first time, this woman I tried to understand and accept seemed utterly alien and absurd. "Ava, when you live-streamed yourself giving my car to another man on TikTok, did you ever stop to think about my humiliation?" My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the silence. The party ground to a halt. Every eye was on us, darting back and forth like a spotlight at a crime scene. The subtext was massive. The rich girl giving the gift was giving away her fiancé's car, which made the birthday boy. The other man, the same crowd that had been cheering and celebrating moments ago, now had expressions of morbid curiosity, contempt, and schadenfreude. Leo, under the intense scrutiny of dozens of people, couldn't take it anymore. He scrambled out of the car and stood to the side, looking like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Ava's face was flushed crimson. She had probably never been so publicly shamed in her life. She grabbed my arm, her tone almost pleading. "Cole, stop it. Let's just go home and talk about this, okay? I'm sorry, I was wrong." Too late. I pulled my arm away, taking a step back. "Ava, let's be crystal clear. Right here in front of the police. 1. This car is my personal premarital property. You have no right to dispose of it. Your actions constitute felony theft. 2. As of this moment, our engagement is officially over." "Over?" she shrieked, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Over a car? Cole, are you serious? A car?" I laughed as if it were the funniest joke I'd ever heard. "You think this is just about a car? Ava, you didn't give away a car. You gave away my dignity. You didn't just trample on my feelings. You set fire to our future. I turned away from her and addressed the officers. Thank you for your help. Let me know what you need from me going forward. One officer nodded, opened the car door, and retrieved the registration from the glove box. After confirming everything matched, he looked at Ava and Leo. Ma'am, sir, the facts are clear. The vehicle belongs to Mr. Hayes, Ms. Sutton. By transferring the vehicle to another person without the owner's consent, you have broken the law. We need both of you to come with us to the station for questioning. I'm not going. Ava completely broke down. Dad, come help me. They're harassing me. She started making a scene, pulling out her phone to call her father, Robert Sutton. Everyone else pulled out their phones too, frantically recording the high drama. The TikTok video praising their perfect love was about to be buried by a viral clip of the real owner showing up to press charges. I watched cold and detached. Ava, this is just the beginning. I'm going to get back everything you owe me with interest. Robert Sutton arrived faster than I expected. Flanked by his assistant and 2 bodyguards, looking furious, he immediately went on the offensive, yelling at the police, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Do you know who this is? This is my daughter. On what grounds are you arresting her?" The senior officer remained calm. "Mr. Sutton, we are enforcing the law. Your daughter is a suspect in a felony theft case, and we need her to cooperate with our investigation." Theft? Robert glared at me. "Cole, you called them. You've gotten too big for your britches, haven't you? It's just a stupid car. Ava liked it, so she gave it to her friend. What's the big deal? Why involve the police? Have you forgotten how the Sutton family helped you get your start?" He went straight for the guilt trip. I met his gaze without flinching. "Mr. Sutton, I haven't forgotten a thing. Your $500,000 investment in the past few years, the dividends and other gifts I've given the Sutton family have totaled over $50 million. I think we're more than even. As for the car," I paused, raising my voice so everyone could hear, "it's worth $460,000. It's not a stupid car. More importantly, it's mine. Ava stole my property to give to someone else. I called the police. That's my right. I don't care if she's your daughter. Nobody is above the law." Robert was speechless, his face turning a dark shade of red. He likely never imagined that I, the man who had always been respectful and deferential in his presence, would suddenly become so defiant and willing to burn everything to the ground. Behind him, Ava was sobbing, pulling at his sleeve. "Dad, he's breaking off our engagement. He's dumping me over this stupid little thing." Robert patted his daughter's hand comfortingly, then took a deep breath, clearly shifting tactics. His voice softened, taking on the tone of a mentoring elder. "Cole, I know you're young and proud, and your ego is bruised. Ava was wrong, and I apologize on her behalf. How about this? We'll return the car immediately, and I'll give you another percentage point of my shares in Nexus AI. Let's just drop this. Making a big scene isn't good for anyone." 1% of Nexus AI at its current valuation was $30 million. I had to admit Robert Sutton knew how to get to the point. He knew my company was what mattered most to me. The crowd gasped. The Suttons were willing to pay $30 million to make this go away. Jake whispered in my ear, "Cole, take the deal. It's a good one. A real war with the Suttons won't do us any favors." Ava stopped crying, a triumphant glint in her eyes. As far as she was concerned, her father had offered me an out, and I had no reason not to take it. I looked at Robert's seemingly sincere but deeply calculating face, and I smiled. "Mr. Sutton, you seem to have misunderstood something," I said. "This isn't about whether I want to burn bridges with you. It's about the fact that your family has gone too far. You think I called the police for money? For shares? I'm telling you it's not about that. I just wanted to teach Ava and all of you a simple lesson. Adults have to be accountable for their actions." I turned to the 2 officers. "Can you please take them away now? I'm done talking." The officers nodded. They had witnessed Robert's threats and bribes, and their opinion of the Austin socialite had clearly soured. "Ms. Sutton, Mr. Vance, let's go." Seeing that neither threats nor incentives were working, Robert's face darkened completely. He stared at me, enunciating each word with venom. "Cole, you're good. I hope you don't live to regret this." "Don't let the door hit you on the way out," I replied, my voice light. In the end, Ava and Leo were escorted to a police car under the gleeful gaze of their party guests. The brand-new McLaren 720S was towed away as evidence. A grand birthday party had ended in a complete farce on TikTok and Twitter. New videos were already going viral. Hashtag socialityistion, hashtag sesame, hashtag clarenfors, hashtag busted by 9/11. The new hashtag was trending 10 times harder than the perfect love one. The Sutton family had been publicly disgraced. Back at the office, Jake was still shaken. "Man, that was epic. But that old fox Robert Sutt, the look he gave you when he left was terrifying. He's going to come after us. We need to be careful." I opened my laptop and pulled up the company's security system logs. "We'll deal with it," I said, scanning the data. "If you want to fight, I'll show him that Nexus AI isn't a company he can bully anymore." Jake leaned over. "Why are you checking the security logs? You think he'll send thugs to trash the place?" I shook my head without explaining. My gut told me something was wrong. Ava's actions were too irrational. She could be spoiled, but she wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what our relationship was built on. She could throw tantrums and make demands, but she would never cross the one line that would cause a complete implosion. Today, she didn't just cross it. She stomped on it in the most idiotic and flamboyant way possible. It was as if she was desperate to provoke me, to make me look like a fool in front of everyone. Why? Just to please Leo. I didn't buy it. I'd had Leo looked into. He was a small-time painter with a tiny studio, barely making ends meet. Ava met him at a gallery opening and was supposedly captivated by his brooding, artistic soul. Was a guy like that worth risking her engagement and her family's reputation? There had to be something else going on. A bold theory began to form in my mind. What if Ava's goal wasn't about the car at all? What if it was a means to a deeper end? For instance, to make me lose my cool, to push me into making a bad business decision, or even simpler, to distract me from something far more important. What was more important than my dignity and my engagement? Only one thing: the source code for the Nexus core. It was the lifeblood of Nexus AI, the culmination of 5 years of my life. I immediately called my CTO and old college roommate, Ryan Shun. "Ryan, I need you at the office right now. Highest priority." After hanging up, I pointed at the log data on my screen. "Jake, look at this. These are the access logs for our core servers. Half an hour ago, right when the police were escorting Ava and Leo away, an external IP address tried to log into our core database. It failed 3 times, triggering a security alert." Jake's face went pale. "Holy crap, someone's trying to steal our code." "The login they used was Ava's," I said, my eyes narrowing. "Ava is a VP in name only. Her credentials have nowhere near the clearance level to access the core code, but they used her account anyway. Don't you think that's odd?" The realization dawned on Jake. "I get it. It was a diversion. They staged the whole car fiasco to get us out of the office, then tried to hit us from the inside. And by using Ava's account, even if they were caught, you'd assume it was just her trying to get revenge." "Exactly," I said, tapping the desk. "It was a smart plan. It almost worked. Luckily, I have a failsafe. Accessing the core database requires a password, a dynamic token, and my thumbprint. A 3-factor authentication." Just then, Ryan burst through the door, sweating. "Cole, we have a problem. Someone's attacking our firewall." I quickly brought him up to speed. Ryan immediately sat down at my terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard. A few minutes later, he looked up, his face grim. "Cole, this was a professional. The IP address was routed through multiple proxies and a botnet. I traced it, but it disappeared in an overseas server. However, he pulled up a file. I managed to capture a small data packet. After the attack failed, the hacker tried to wipe their tracks, but our defense system automatically backed up the last few seconds of traffic. It's fragmented, but maybe we can recover something." I stared at the garbled code on the screen, my theory solidifying. Ava, Leo, the McLaren, the theft, the hacking attempt. They were all connected, individual threads being woven together into a massive conspiracy. And I was standing right at the center of it. I barely slept for the next 24 hours. On one hand, I cooperated with the police, providing my statement and evidence for the theft case. The facts were clear, and the proof was undeniable, combined with a public outcry. Ava and Leo were held in police custody. Grand theft auto is a felony, not a simple misunderstanding. Robert Sutton called in every favor he had, trying to get Ava released, but nothing worked. He called me countless times, his tone shifting from threats and bribes to pathetic begging, pleading with me to sign an affidavit of non-prosecution. "Cole, I'm begging you. Just sign a statement saying it was all a misunderstanding between a couple and Ava can walk. Name your price, shares, cash, real estate, anything." I gave him one answer. "Mr. Sutton, right now your daughter is only facing a felony theft charge. What if I told you she was also implicated in corporate espionage? Do you still think a simple statement from me would make it go away?" The line went silent. Robert Sutton understood exactly what I meant. On the other hand, I had Ryan and his team working around the clock to decrypt the data packet. I also hired the best private investigation firm in the state and gave them 2 targets. The first was Leo Vance. I wanted everything on him: his real identity, his contacts, his financial records, his entire history. No stone left unturned. The second was Ava. I wanted a complete record of her movements and communications for the past 6 months. I was certain that once I had the full story on those 2, the truth would come out. 2 days later, the PI's first report landed on my desk. The contents made my blood run cold. Leo Vance was not a struggling artist. His real name was Leo Vance. He was a computer science graduate from a top-tier university, a bona fide elite hacker. His art studio was just a front. His real income came from taking on dirty jobs on the dark web. Most damningly, the report showed that 6 months ago, Vance had a secret meeting with a senior executive from a company called Genesis Dynamics. Genesis Dynamics was our biggest domestic competitor. Their core business was also AI. For the past 2 years, they've been fighting us tooth and nail for market share, playing dirty whenever they could. Now, it seemed they had gotten someone on the inside. At almost the same moment, Ryan's team had a breakthrough. "Cole, we cracked the data packet," he yelled, rushing into my office. Most of it was corrupted, but we managed to recover a file name and a small code snippet. He projected the recovered data onto the main screen. The file name was Project Core Zip Aries. It was the code name for our next-generation AI engine, a project so secret that only I, Jake, and Ryan knew it existed. And the code snippet was the startup bootloader for the Aries engine. The chain of evidence was complete. The truth was undeniable. This wasn't a romance gone wrong. It was a meticulously planned act of corporate espionage. Leo Vance was a spy sent by Genesis Dynamics. He created a fake identity as an artist to get close to Ava, exploiting her resentment towards me and her inherent greed to turn her into an asset. The McLaren incident was a brilliant 3-pronged strategy. First, humiliate me publicly to create a media frenzy and distract me. Second, lure me away from the office, creating a window of opportunity for Vance's cyber attack. Third, use Ava's credentials for the attack. If it failed, she would take the fall, allowing Vance to walk away clean. It was a vicious plan. If I had been the same man I was a few years ago, still swayed by sentiment and past favors, it might have actually worked. Unfortunately for them, they miscalculated badly. Jake stared at the evidence on the screen, a cold sweat on his brow. Those bastards and Ava, that venomous snake. I swear I could kill her myself. I held up a hand, motioning for him to calm down. "Not yet," I said coldly. "Vance is a big fish, but he's connected to a bigger net. I don't just want to ruin him and Ava. I want to burn Genesis Dynamics to the ground." Jake looked at me, confused. "Cool. We have the evidence now. We can go to the FBI. Leak the corporate espionage case to the press. Genesis will be finished. Why wait?" I smiled, a hunter's thrill coursing through me. Just calling the cops is too easy on them. They set me up with this elaborate scheme. It would be rude not to return the favor with an even bigger gift, don't you think? I looked out the window at the city lights, and a bolder, crazier plan began to take shape. Jake, Ryan, get ready. We're going to set a trap. For the next few days, Austin's business world seemed quiet. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. I made a decision that shocked everyone. I voluntarily withdrew my complaint against Ava and submitted an affidavit of non-prosecution to the police. I claimed the car was always intended as a gift for her and she had just jumped the gun with a surprise. It was all, I said, a misunderstanding. The news caused an uproar. Everyone thought I'd lost my mind. Did Cole Hayes just fold after getting cheated on and humiliated like that? He just lets her go. Elmo capitalists. Dignity means nothing when there's money on the line. The Suttons must have offered him a fortune. I feel bad for that Leo guy. He was just a pawn in their game. The Suttons have probably already cut him loose. Jake was the first to storm into my office. Cole, what the hell are you doing? We're holding a royal flush and you're just going to let that viper walk. I clapped him on the shoulder reassuringly. Patience, Jake. The bait is in the water. You have to give the fish a chance to bite, don't you? The day Ava was released, Robert Sutton picked her up himself. I watched them from my car across the street. Ava looked thinner, paler, but the hatred in her eyes was unmistakable. She saw my car, shot at a venomous glare, and disappeared in her father's Rolls-Royce. I knew she wouldn't let it go. When a person goes through a major ordeal, they change in one of two ways. They either see the error of their ways or they double down. Ava was clearly the latter. Her short stay in jail hadn't prompted any self-reflection. Instead, it had magnified all her resentment towards me. In her mind, I was the one who had humiliated her and ruined her reputation. She would be more desperate than ever for revenge, more determined to take more from me. And that was exactly what I wanted, just as I predicted. The day after her release, Ava took a long leave of absence from the company, citing a need to recover. But my PI's report showed she wasn't resting at home. She was meeting secretly with Leo Vansk. At the same time, Genesis Dynamics started making moves. They began aggressively underbidding us on several major government contracts using a suicidal low-price strategy. Their goal was clear: drain our cash flow and put us under financial pressure. Jake was pacing my office like a caged animal. Cole, we can't wait any longer. Genesis is starting a price war to bleed us dry. We've got deep pockets, but a war of attrition will still hurt us. I, however, remained perfectly calm. I even instructed our CFO to leak some rumors about a cash flow problem. Let them have the contracts, I told my head of sales. On any project where we're up against Genesis, put in a token bid, then pull out. Focus all our energy and resources on the final push for the Ares project. Panic began to spread through the company. Many employees didn't understand my strategy and thought we were actually going under. Some senior executives even started quietly talking to headhunters. I allowed all of it. I needed to make my enemies lower their guard, but I also wanted to use this opportunity to see who on my team was truly loyal and who would jump ship at the first sign of trouble. The stage had to be set perfectly. A week later, the time was right. During a senior management meeting, I let it slip, pretending to be drunk and frustrated. I confessed that Nexus AI was in trouble because we had poured every last dollar into a revolutionary project that would change the industry, the Ares engine. I boasted that the project was in its final testing phase and that once it was complete, not only would Genesis Dynamics be obsolete, but even the global tech giants would be left in the dust. And then the final piece of bait. I accidentally revealed that all the core data for the Ares engine was stored on a single air-gapped server and that for security, I kept a physical backup key, a simple USB drive in the safe of my office. The news spread through the company like a virus passed along by the very executives I knew were disloyal. It reached AA's ears and it reached the ears of Genesis Dynamics. I knew the fish was about to take the bait. That night, I had Jake drag me to a bar, making a show of being out of the office. I even posted a picture on my private Instagram story of myself looking completely wasted. Back in my office, a trap was already laid. Beyond the standard security cameras, I had installed several new pinhole cameras and high-fidelity audio recorders. The safe itself was custom-made with a false compartment. The outer layer did indeed contain a USB drive, but on it was a special gift I had prepared. The real core data had been moved to a place no one would ever think to look. At 11 p.m., the show began. On the security feed, a familiar figure crept down the hallway. It was Ava. She used her own keycard to open the main door and walked straight to my office. She was visibly nervous, her movements clumsy. This was clearly not her area of expertise. A man followed close behind her, Leo Vansk. He was much calmer than Ava, even taking a moment to casually inspect my office decor. "Hurry up. What are you waiting for?" Ava whispered frantically. "Cole could be back any minute." Vansk scoffed. "Relax. He's drinking himself into a stupor tonight. Even if he comes back, he'll be useless. Your ex-fiancé isn't as smart as he thinks he is. We've been playing him this whole time." Ava's expression soured, but she didn't argue. They went straight for the safe. Vance pulled a set of professional tools from his bag: a stethoscope, a micro-drill, an endoscope. He was clearly an expert. It only took him 10 minutes. With a soft click, the safe door swung open. Ava let out a tiny excited gasp. She pulled out the black USB drive, waving it in front of Vance. "I've got it. We did it." Vance took the drive, his eyes gleaming with greed. He pulled a small encrypted laptop from his bag and plugged it in. "Not so fast. I need to verify the contents." A folder named Project Unersurst appeared on the screen. Vance opened it, revealing a dense collection of documents and code files. He randomly opened a few, his eyes darting across the screen. "It's here. The core bootloader, the algorithm modules. That idiot Cole actually kept it all here." As he spoke, he began copying all the files from the USB drive to his laptop. Meanwhile, in another room, Jake, Ryan, and I were watching the whole thing on a large screen. Jake's fists were clenched. "Cole, that's it. We've got them red-handed. Time to call in." I shook my head, a cold smile on my lips. "Not yet. The show is just getting started. You didn't think all I prepared for them was a fake database, did you?" The moment Vansack plugged that USB into his encrypted laptop, a Trojan horse I wrote myself, disguised as a standard driver file, silently installed itself onto his machine. This virus won't steal his data or damage his system. It has only one function: to find every piece of communication related to Genesis Dynamics, every transaction record, every scrap of evidence from their corporate espionage activities, bundle it all into an encrypted file, and send it to a secure email address I control. Jake and Ryan were speechless. "Holy Cole, is this reverse phishing?" Jake stammered. "No," I corrected him. "This is called wiping out the entire school." Once the files were copied, Vansack ejected the USB and handed it back to Ava. "We have what we came for. Let's go and remember the plan." Ava nodded, clutching the USB drive tightly, a look of vicious satisfaction on her face. "Don't worry, Cole made my life a living hell. I'm going to make sure he loses everything." They quickly left the building and disappeared into the night. I watched them go, then pulled out my phone and dialed a number. "It's time." The real storm hit the next morning at 9 a.m. sharp. Genesis Dynamics held a massive online press conference, announcing a disruptive technological breakthrough. The successful development of the nation's first truly independent advanced AI engine, which they called Project Nova, had the CEO of Genesis Dynamics, Marcus Thorne, a man in his late 40s with slicked-back hair, beaming with pride. He declared that the performance of the Nova engine surpassed every competitor on the market, including our own Nexus Core. To prove it, he ran a live demonstration of Nova's supposedly powerful real-time processing and logical reasoning capabilities. The tech world and the stock market went into a frenzy. Genesis Dynamics stock shot up, hitting the limit-up threshold at market open, and Nexus AI became a laughingstock. Nexus is finished. Their core tech is obsolete. How can they compete? I heard Cole Hayes bet the entire company on his next engine. He must be completely wiped out. So much drama. One day, we're watching him tear down his fiancée. The next day, his whole company is collapsing. Our company's phone lines were overwhelmed with calls from concerned partners and investors. Inside the company, morale hit rock bottom. Jake was frantically pacing my office. "Cole, when are we fighting back? If we don't say something soon, the company is going to implode. I sat calmly in my chair, watching Marcus Thorne's triumphant face on my monitor. Not yet, I said softly. Let him fly a little higher. The final segment of the press conference was a Q&A. A reporter who had clearly been planted stood up. Mr. Thorne, we've noticed that many of the technical specifications of your Nova engine are remarkably similar to concepts previously published by Nexus AI. Can you comment on this relationship? Is it possible that there was any plagiarism involved? This was the moment Marcus Thorne had been waiting for. He first put on a pained expression, then sighed dramatically. I was hoping I wouldn't have to address this, but since you asked, I must unfortunately reveal a difficult truth. His voice suddenly rose, filled with righteous anger. We did not copy Nexus. The truth is, Nexus AI has been stealing our research and development for years. The virtual audience erupted. Thorne pressed his advantage, projecting a series of so-called proofs onto the main screen. It was some of our Nexus Core's early code placed side by side with code from his Nova engine. Of course, the comparisons were carefully edited and manipulated to look deceptively similar. Look at this evidence. Cole Hayes, this supposed genius, is nothing but a shameless thief. He used his personal relationship with me as a former colleague to gain my trust and steal the source code for our prototype engine. That is the only reason Nexus AI exists today. He delivered the lines with tears in his eyes, as if he were the one who had been betrayed. He even brought on a witness. I recognized the man on the video call, Professor Miller, my former university mentor and also a close friend of Thorne. The professor, looking deeply disappointed, confirmed that as a student, I did have access to some of Thorne's early research materials. The final nail was in the coffin. The narrative had been flipped. I was no longer just a failed businessman. I was a despicable fraud who had built my empire on stolen ideas from my mentor. They were trying to crucify me. Just then, an unexpected guest crashed the press conference. It was Ava, clutching the black USB drive. She ran onto the stage and grabbed the microphone from Thorne. I can prove it. Everything Marcus is saying is true. Cole Hayes is a manipulative, backstabbing liar and a thief. Her arrival pushed the drama to its absolute peak. Every camera was on her. With tears streaming down her face, Ava screamed my crimes to the world. He tricked me. I thought he was a brilliant, ambitious entrepreneur. So, I begged my father to invest in him, to help him. I never imagined that everything he built was stolen. He didn't just steal from Genesis, he cheated on me. He was hiding assets and funneling company money. When I found out and confronted him, he turned it around on me, called the police, and framed me for stealing his car. But I found the proof. This USB drive contains the hard evidence that he stole the core technology from Genesis. Today, in front of the whole world, I'm going to expose him for the fraud he is. She moved to plug the USB into the presentation laptop. Thorne made a show of trying to stop her, a victorious smirk playing on his lips. This was exactly what he wanted, my own ex-fiancée delivering the killing blow. There is no crueler revenge than a personal one. Back in my office, Jake was speechless, pointing at the screen, shaking with rage. That snake, that venomous snake. How could she? How could she twist everything like that? Ryan's face was grim. Only I remained calm. I even allowed myself a small smile. All right, show's over. Our turn. I pressed a button on my desk. On the massive screen at the press conference, the faces of Thorne and Ava vanished. They were replaced by security footage. The footage was from my office 2 nights ago. It clearly showed Ava and Leo Van sneaking in, cracking the safe, and stealing the USB drive. The entire venue fell into a stunned silence. Everyone stared, mouths agape at the shocking twist. Ava's expression of righteous fury froze, melting into one of pure, unadulterated horror. She looked from the screen to the audience, her jaw slack. Thorne's smile was frozen on his face. Before he could react, the screen changed again. This time, it was an audio recording, the conversation between Ava and Leo in my office. Relax. He's drinking himself into a stupor tonight. Your ex-fiancé isn't as smart as he thinks he is. We've been playing him this whole time. We have what we came for. Let's go. And remember the plan. Don't worry. Cole made my life a living hell. I'm going to make sure he loses everything. The evidence was irrefutable. The so-called technology theft, the grand reveal, it was all a premeditated setup to frame me. The press conference exploded into chaos. Reporters scrambled, shoving microphones and cameras at the two figures on stage who now looked like statues carved from ice. Ms. Sutton, do you have any explanation for this footage? Mr. Thorne, is this what Genesis Dynamics calls in-house R&D? Is this entire press conference a fraudulent scheme to manipulate the market? Are you aware you've just committed libel and conspiracy? Ava completely fell apart, collapsing to the floor and muttering, "Impossible! This is impossible." Thorne tried one last desperate move, screaming at the tech crew, "Turn it off. Turn off the screen now." But it was too late. The screen didn't turn off. Instead, it switched to a third set of evidence. It was all the data my Trojan horse had extracted from Leo Vance's laptop. It contained detailed records of his contract with Genesis Dynamics, his communications about seducing and turning Ava, their entire plan for the espionage, and all the relevant chat logs and wire transfer receipts. There was even an audio recording of Marcus Thorne personally promising Vance a $50 million payout and a ticket out of the country once the job was done. If the security footage proved Ava and Leo's crime, this new evidence was a dagger straight to the heart of Genesis Dynamics and Marcus Thorne. This was no longer just a business dispute. This was a massive organized criminal conspiracy. But the story wasn't over. As chaos engulfed the room, the main doors swung open. Several agents from the FBI's Economic Crimes Unit entered, followed by a swarm of journalists. Leading them was me. I surveyed the scene, my eyes sweeping over the catatonic Ava and the ashen-faced Marcus Thorne before finally settling on the flashing cameras of the press. I picked up a microphone, my voice echoing through the silent hall. "Good morning. My name is Cole Hayes. I believe what you have all just witnessed makes the situation perfectly clear. This was a meticulously planned conspiracy, a malicious attack designed to destroy both me and my company, Nexus AI. Mr. Marcus Thorne, a former colleague and the founder of Genesis Dynamics, hired a professional hacker to seduce and manipulate my ex-fiancée in order to steal our core technology. He then orchestrated this elaborate piece of theater to paint himself as the victim. Unfortunately for him, you can't outsmart an honest man with a dishonest scheme. I held up a document last night. I submitted all of this evidence to the FBI. They worked through the night and early this morning and successfully apprehended the suspect, Leo Vance, at the airport. Simultaneously, my lawyers have officially filed a lawsuit against Genesis Dynamics and its co-founder, Marcus Thorne. The charges include, but are not limited to, corporate defamation, theft of trade secrets, and malicious interference. We are seeking damages in the amount of $3 billion. $3 billion. The number hit the crowd like a shock wave. It was nearly the entire valuation of my company. Thorne swayed on his feet, nearly collapsing. He pointed a trembling finger at me, unable to form a single word. He was finished. I knew he was utterly and completely finished. Genesis Dynamics was finished. Ava was finished. She looked at me, the hatred in her eyes replaced by pure terror and desperation. She started crawling towards me, grabbing at the leg of my pants. "Cole, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. Please forgive me just this once. For old time's sake." I looked down at the woman who I once might have cared for, who now filled me with nothing but disgust. I slowly shook my head. "Old times, Sake. The moment you conspired with another man to destroy me, the only thing left between us was the law." I kicked her hand away and didn't look back. The lead agent stepped forward and presented Marcus Thorne and Ava Sutton with arrest warrants. "Marcus Thorne, Ava Sutton, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit industrial espionage and for filing a false report. You have the right to remain silent." Cold steel handcuffs snapped onto their wrists. As the cameras rolled, live streaming to the entire world, they were led away by federal agents. The once celebrated tech mogul and a glamorous socialite were now nothing more than disgraced criminals. A long and unforgiving prison sentence awaited them. The press conference, a grand piece of theater, had ended in a way no one could have possibly imagined. But the earthquake that had been triggered was just beginning. Epilogue: Genesis Dynamics stock plummeted into oblivion. Within 3 days, it had lost over 90% of its value and was facing bankruptcy. Partners canceled contracts, and their core talent abandoned the sinking ship. A Sutton family met a similar fate. With their daughter, a convicted felon, and their massive investment in Genesis now a black hole, their empire crumbled. Banks called in their loans, partners turned on them, and overnight the Suttons' commercial dynasty collapsed. Robert Sutton, looking 20 years older, came to see me. He waited outside my office building for 5 hours. "Cole," he said, his voice trembling, "let Ava go. Let the Suttons go. I'll sign over all my shares in Nexus to you for free." He thought that was his last bargaining chip. I laughed. "Mr. Sutton, have you forgotten? Due to the massive damages your daughter and her co-conspirators caused my company, the court has already frozen all assets belonging to you and Ava. That includes your shares in Nexus. In other words, they aren't yours to give anymore. They are already part of the court-ordered compensation that will be transferred to me." The last spark of light died in Robert Sutton's eyes. I watched his broken figure walk away without a shred of pity. You reap what you sow. If not for his greed and his willingness to indulge his daughter's every whim, she never would have ended up here. When the avalanche comes, no snowflake is innocent. A month later, the court delivered its verdict. Marcus Thorne, Leo Vansk, and Ava Sutton were found guilty on multiple counts of major corporate crimes. They were each sentenced to no less than 7 years in federal prison and ordered to pay massive fines. Genesis Dynamics was liquidated. I acquired the majority of their valuable assets, including patents and research teams, for pennies on the dollar. My traitorous mentor, Professor Miller, was fired by his university for academic fraud and ethics violations, his career ruined. As for the Sutton family, they declared bankruptcy, disappearing completely from Austin's high society. Everyone who betrayed me, everyone who tried to harm me, paid a heavy price. 3 months later, Nexus AI held its own product launch. I stood on the same kind of stage in front of the world and officially unveiled our true masterpiece, the Ares engine. Its performance was 10 times more powerful than the crippled, stolen version Genesis had tried to pass off as their own. The launch was an unprecedented success. Nexus AI's valuation quintupled overnight, rocketing past $15 billion and cementing our position as the undisputed leader in the artificial intelligence sector. At the celebration party, Jake and Ryan, the 2 guys who had been with me since I had nothing, raised their glasses, their eyes glistening. "Cole, you magnificent bastard," Jake said, clapping me on the back. "That was the most beautiful counterattack I've ever seen. So damn satisfying." Ryan nodded. "Yeah, who would have thought a messy breakup would hide such a massive conspiracy? You single-handedly steered this ship out of a hurricane, then turned around and swallowed the whale that caused it." I smiled, clinked my glass against theirs, and downed the champagne. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked down at the glittering expanse of the city. Some say that after revenge, all that's left is emptiness. I didn't feel that. All I felt was a clean, quiet peace. My revenge was never about a single person. It was about fighting back against the kind of deceit and treachery that tries to tear down what others build. My fight wasn't just for a company. It was for the dignity of every entrepreneur who honestly pours their blood, sweat, and tears into building something real. I'm not a saint, and I don't believe in turning the other cheek. For me, the best way to show gratitude is to ensure that goodness is rewarded. And the most complete revenge is to live better than your enemies, to stand so high they can never reach you again. From now on, there would be no more Ava, no more Sutton, no more conspiracies and betrayals. There was only the horizon and the dawn of my Nexus era. The city lights reflected in my eyes, a burning river of stars. I knew this was only the